Hello, my name is Yasmine Belghith, and in this video I'm excited to share with you our research, exploring the social structures of open source intelligence investigations. This work was done in collaboration with Sukrit Venkatagiri and Dr. Kurt Luther. Investigations online have been increasingly conducted by crowds using publicly available information. While some are successful at uncovering crimes and supporting crisis responses, they are also known for their notorious failures such as vigilantism, misidentifications, and doxxings, like in the case of the Boston bombing or the more recent Capitol riots. Within online investigations, we find the field of open source intelligence. OSINT refers to data that can be gathered from publicly and legally available sources. OSINT experts collect, verify, and analyze that data to conduct their investigations. OSINT investigations have successfully identified rioters at the Capitol, human rights violations in Syria, and have more recently been a reliable source for real-time news on the war in Ukraine. One reason for OSINT investigators' successes may be due to the community of practice they are a part of, with its unique approach and underlying philosophy. OSINT investigators often come together as a community. Due to the range of OSINT investigations and applications and the need for individuals with diverse domain expertise in the field, both collaborative and competitive organizations play an important role in building the OSINT community. These organizations conduct real-world investigations, but also simulated ones to engage investigators and train novices. For instance, the Citizen Evidence Lab at Amnesty International is an example of a primarily collaborative organization where members collaborate to conduct real-world investigations surrounding human rights violations. On the other hand, Hackatoria organizes competitions in the form of Capture the Flag or CTF contests with simulated investigations. In the organizations, we find expert OSINT investigators as organizers, and we also find contributors who are other expert and novice investigators assisting the organizers in their investigations. For our study, we interviewed 14 expert OSINT investigators from both collaborative and competitive organizations conducting real-world and simulated investigations to first provide a description of the OSINT investigative community as a community of practice and surface its three key elements: a culture of transparency, the presence of an adversarial mindset, and the collaboration of individuals with diverse motivations and backgrounds. We also described social structures and dynamics within and outside of the community and characterize social OSINT tactics as a combination of competitive and collaborative approaches used in structuring OSINT investigations. Finally, we also suggest tool design recommendations to better support OSINT and more generally crowdsourced investigations. Due to the time constraint, I will focus on the second contribution. This diagram depicts the social structures and dynamics within and outside of the OSINT community. In our paper, we discuss social dynamics with organizations they work within, organizations or individuals they work with, and organizations they work for. Because of our limited time, I will focus on the collaborative and competitive structures within the organizations, as well as their blending into social OSINT tactics. First, we look at primarily collaborative organizations, which are more prevalent in real-life investigations because of how vast the OSINT field is. As P3 shared, the open source community generally is super collaborative, and that's what I love about it, and I think anything we all do in this space should be emulating that, collaborating with different partners across disciplines and covering different sectors. These organizations are characterized by more structure and hierarchy and less explicit rules about which tools and data to use and how tasks are structured. They rely more heavily on the expertise and creativity of their contributors, as P14 shared. They also emphasize transparency and robust communication throughout their investigative process and promote the establishment of strong bonds or friendships between the contributors, which strengthens their resilience through the sometimes frustrating investigative process. Second, we look at primarily competitive organizations. These mostly conduct simulated investigations in the form of capture the flag contests or quizzes. As P11 shares, a healthy dose of competition can help definitely people move faster and refocus at times, because also, again, the open source investigation, you can go down so many rabbit holes. These organizations are characterized by less structure and hierarchy, allowing their members to form their own investigative teams, but more explicit rules in how to conduct different tasks to keep a level playing field, as P6 mentions. These organizations have gamified the investigation process to motivate participants and increase engagement, as P8 says here, while still conveying the foundational principles of the community. We also observe the presence of an adversarial mindset, inherent to investigations and contests in general, which sometimes leads to a desire for recognition. As P14 shared, the contributors naturally want to show outputs that different teams have, like stories, reports, or legal memos. 8 of the 14 organizations we studied, however, blend either competitive or collaborative strategies within their structure. In primarily collaborative organizations, we see competitive strategies introduced in the form of red teaming. As P11 explains, we'll bring another open source investigator who wasn't working on the story, and that person will go through the story with the idea of, I need to break that story, I need to find a hole in that story, I need to find a mistake. We also see the use of gamification. These strategies allow investigators to build sounder investigative arguments and keep contributors engaged in the process. On the other hand, in primarily competitive organizations, we see collaborative strategies in the form of team-based competitions, where team members collaborate and share their skill sets throughout the contest. So where do we go from here? We suggest that further blending of collaborative and competitive strategies can be beneficial, but has to be implemented carefully, as past research shows that competition can sometimes inhibit collaboration. First, in primarily competitive organizations, we can introduce more collaborative strategies, such as rewarding competitors who exhibit collaborative behavior throughout the contest, or designing positive goal interdependence in the contest. This would reduce the amount of duplicated efforts by teams and incentivize contestants to share their expertise and findings with others. On the other hand, more competitive strategies can benefit collaborative organizations by limiting groupthink and inaccuracy blindness, as well as allowing investigators to leverage encapsulation and gamification. More generally, we suggest that establishing strong social ties and friendships between investigators can provide advantages beyond sense-making and creativity, strengthening the available support systems and building resilience. Thank you for your attention, and please reach out with any questions, thoughts, or comments.